Hey there. Got a question here from our friend Peter. Is there an easy way to audit cameras that are not in any views? So you've got some smart client views and there's cameras in those views, but are there any cameras in the system that may or may not be recording, but they're not in a view for a person to easily find and view in the smart client or the mobile client for that matter? So yes, we can do this. It is a little bit tricky because we need to mess with some XML, but it can be done. So let's first play with a couple of commands. Get VMS View group and get VMS View, yeah, just View. Let me bring our terminal up here and we'll do get VMS View group. All right, so we have our private view group, and then we have one view group called demo that's a shared view group that might be assigned to one or more roles. Um, we cannot audit views that are in other users' private view groups. So we can look at our own that we're logged into the PowerShell terminal with, or we can look at the like shared view groups, but we can't audit the contents of private users' view groups without like going directly into the SQL database and trying to make sense of it there, which is not something that we're going to cover here. So yes, you can audit the cameras that are not in a view as long as you're looking at public view groups. All right, so let's look at this demo view group. All right, so we have a variable VG with the demo view group in it. If we want to see views that are in that view group, we can do VG and then get VMS view, but nothing's there. Why is that? Well, that's because a view group is we just grabbed the root demo view group. Inside that view group are other view groups, and those view groups can have their own view groups in them or views. So what we can do is do get VMS view group dash recurse, and that's going to recursively get the view group and then any child view groups, and it'll return those child view groups as well as the parent view groups. So if we do get VMS view group dash recurse, and then we do get VMS view, then we get our testing view. We only have one view with one camera in it at the moment. But this will return all of the views from all of the public view groups, as well as our private view group. So we should probably filter that out um, just to make sure that your admin user account that might have its own private views doesn't um, change the outcome of your script. So let's start here and we'll do get VMS view group where object name is not equal to private. And that'll get the root level view groups. We'll call those public view groups. Oh, caps lock. Okay, so then we could do public view groups, get VMS view group dash recurse, get VMS view. Let's go ahead and run that. Let's see what that says. I just hit F5, but I am in, yeah, that's right, I'm in interactive mode here. Okay. And I just want to try that again, make sure that's working. It's not doing anything at all. Let's hit stop here. I'm going to change my PowerShell configuration. I'm going to add PowerShell launch current script. Launch current file, there we go. Okay, let's get rid of that sidebar and we'll try this again. F5. Stop. There we go. Now it should work. All right, we're good. So we have our public view groups variable here, and then we get all of the view groups recursively out of those public view groups, and then get all of the views. All right, from there, what can we do? Well, let's store this in a variable for now. Views, views. All right, so in this object, we have these different properties. Um, view item child items is what we're looking for. So let's do dot view item child items. Okay, and then we have this blob of XML. So what we did, let me back up here. Um, there's our view. Nope. All right, so this is one view, and a view can have multiple elements in it, view items in it, child items. So view item, child items, if it was a 2x2 view with 4 cameras in it, it would have 4 child items. But this is a 1x1, so it has 1 child item. Each of those items will have an XML property that describes the contents of that frame in that view. So what we need to do, let's take a closer look at that XML. Views dot view item child items dot view 0 dot view item definition XML. All right, let's make that a little bit bigger. Now it's not nicely formatted here. You know what? Let's make it nicely formatted. We'll just copy this, create a new file, paste that in there, and we'll make our screen a little bit bigger there. And now we have a better formatted XML. So this describes one view item, and if you're familiar with XProtect, you may know that you can have more than just cameras in your views. You might have a map, you might have an alarm list, you could have an LPR view item, you could have all kinds of things in there. So there is a property called type that describes the internal class definition for this what this view item contains. So this is a camera view item, and those are the only ones that we're interested in. So we need to look through and discover all of the views, and then find all of the view items that are in those views, and see if they're the right type. And if they are, we need to look at the camera ID property in the item info. So let's go back to our script here, and let's see, we want to know all of the cameras that are in views. So let's create a hash table. Cameras in views. And then we'll go through all of the views for each object. Okay, so for each of these views, we are going to grab, I want to put this in a for each block because it'll just be easier to look at. So we're going to say views equals that, and we'll say for each view in views. All right, then we want to look at for each item in view dot, and what was that? It's view item child items, and case is not sensitive, but that was going to bug me, so correct that. All right, so for each view, we're going to look at each item in that view and say we're going to ignore this item if it doesn't contain camera view item. Let's process the XML. We'll say XML equals, or maybe we'll just call that definition equals XML. We'll use the XML type accelerator, and we'll say item dot view item definition XML. And just to make sure this is still working and we're on the right track, I'm going to spit out that definition XML object and just make sure it works. And it's working. That's our view item parent or root node. So if definition dot view item dot type not match camera view item, we're going to continue, and that means we're just going to go right back up to this for each, and we're going to grab the next item in that view because it does not contain the camera view item. And otherwise, we'll move on to the next line, and I'll put that there. So now if I hit F5 again, it should give me the same output. We should see this view item definition one more time. Yes, we do. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and do cameras and views, and then I'm going to use the ID of this camera as the key, and I'm just going to throw a null value into a dictionary. That dictionary, or this hash table, is going to make it fast for us to check later on when we go through all of the cameras that are in the configuration to check each camera's ID against this hash table to see if it's in there. If it is, then we know it's in a view. If it isn't, then we know it's not in a view, and then we can spit out the ones that aren't in a view. So we're going to grab the item dot view item. What's next? Whoops. Let's find out. Let's say item equals, and we're going to do get VMS View group, get VMS View, dash recurse. I just want to get this variable in the terminal that I can play with. Get VMS View, and then for each of the views, we'll say XML VMS, nope, not VMS, dot view item child items 0, the very first element in the array, dot view item definition XML. Ew. I'm not a fan of working with these deeply nested XML blobs, but it is what it is. All right, item dot, and then we'll do item, no, item dot view item, there we go. And what's the next thing? Item info, that's right. Item info, then we can grab the camera ID from there. So I'll just copy that and use it here. There we are. So cameras in views equals, and then we'll use that cameras ID, and then we'll just assign a value of null because we don't actually care about these values. All we care about is whether or not the keys exist in the hash table. And it's okay if a camera's in multiple views, we don't really care. Or do we care? Should we care? If that mattered to you, then you could have the camera ID be the key, and then the check to see if it's in the dictionary already or in the hash table. And if it's not, then add it with a value of 1. And then next time, if it's already in the hash table, then you can add 1 to the value so that in the end you know how many views every camera is in. But anyway, that's not what the question was. So we're just going to indicate that it is in a view somewhere, at least one view. All right, so in the end, cameras in views, I'm just going to spit this out to the terminal to verify that it has one GUID in it and that we're on the right track. So let's hit F5 to run it. And I did something wrong. All right, we have our item. Oh, that's a problem. It's supposed to be definition. Item was the the object that has the XML definition property. It wasn't the XML object itself. So let's try this again. There we go. All right, we're working so far. So now we can go through all of the cameras. So get VMS camera. That will get every enabled camera from every recording server by default. So if you want to be more specific, you could do get VMS recording server and provide the name of the recording server you want to retrieve, and then get the cameras from all the hardware on that recording server. But we'll just get all cameras and where object. We'll put this in a variable. Cameras. We don't need to put it in a variable because we're going to wrap this in a function when we're done. So get VMS camera, where object, we're going to go ID. We need to check if it's not in a dictionary, so or not in a, if the key isn't in the hash table. So we'll put this in a script block and we'll say where the cameras in views dot contains key, and we'll put the ID in there, and we want to know, we want the cameras that are not keys in that hash table. And I'm going to get rid of that and run this again. It should give me one camera, and it didn't because, oh, it did exactly what it was supposed to because I have my camera in a view. So if I actually bring up my view and I edit it and go back in here and clear VMS cache and rerun this, now it should give me that camera because it's no longer in a view. Perfect. So now we can get a list of cameras that aren't in views, but it is just this raw PowerShell script that isn't very reusable. We're going to put this in a function. So we're going to use the function snippet, and we'll say this should be get cameras that aren't in views. You rename the function to whatever you want. Naming is hard. Okay, I don't need a begin or an end block in this case. Just a simple process block. Technically, you could even just get rid of the process block and drop it in here, and then I think it's implicitly in the end block. But I like to be explicit about what I'm doing. Let's copy or cut this, drop it in here. It's all nicely formatted. Let's, it doesn't have any parameters right now. Feel free to parameterize this if you need to. And I'm going to hit F5, and that's going to just basically run this, which means it's going to define this function in my PowerShell session for me. Then we can try using it. All right. Whoops. Make this bigger. Okay. Get cameras that tab complete that aren't in view. I apparently didn't make that plural. Let's go into our smart client and add that camera back to a view. And I'm going to use clear VMS cache again. What this is doing is we've already retrieved information about our views, and so that information is cached in our PowerShell session. Clear VMS cache is going to reset that cache so that the next time we ask for the same view that we just read, it's not going to read from the cache, it's going to actually ask the management server for a copy. So I'll run that. I'll run that, and now it's not returning anything because all of my one cameras are in a view. So yeah, there you go. That's how you can audit and determine which cameras are not in a view. Enjoy.